Hello. If you've seen a lot of my videos and you kind of want to copy how my game looks, this is going to be the video because I'm just going to kind of go through everything. I've been using the same setup for about the last couple years with very minimal changes, so I think it's a good time to put a video out because I don't see it changing much from here on out. So let's get to it. Okay, so in my game settings, I have brightness on max, obviously. I play at native resolution on 16:9, full screen of course, so we can get more brightness, and of course film grain is off. In the advanced settings here, I actually do use some anti-aliasing. I keep filtering mode on the highest because I saw an FPS improvement guide and this seems to not have an effect on FPS much, and it just makes your game look a bit more clear. I keep the shader detail on low. You're welcome to put it on high if you'd like, but I prefer low. I keep effect detail on high, mostly because some servers actually require it to be on high for you to play. Not all of them, but there have been a few I've encountered where you need high. If you just want rocks to appear at a distance, medium will be good enough for you. And then model texture detail, I keep medium because I don't want it to look completely awful, but yeah, just kind of my preference. I've been using it like this. Multi-core rendering, we're going to keep enabled so that we can take advantage of all those cores in our CPU, and we keep page pool memory available to high. In keyboard and mouse settings, the only things I really care about are raw mouse input on enabled, allow developer console enabled, and gamepad on disabled. This is so that we can fast climb with tank. One more thing is my field of view is at 94. I think it's a pretty good option that lets you see a little bit more around you without warping things around. For your launch options, we're going to right click the game and go to properties, and then you just see we have -LV, -high, and -novid. What -LV does is it makes the zombies disappear pretty much as soon as you kill them. -high puts the game on high process priority. I kind of have that for an FPS boost. It might just be placebo, but I keep it. And novid is to skip the startup video. Okay, now that we've covered in-game settings, I think we can finish out the rest of the video in our files. So let's get to it. We are right-clicking our game, going to Manage and Browse Local Files. We click into L4D2, CFG, and we have autoexec.cfg here. If you do not have a file named autoexec.cfg, go ahead and make it. You're gonna have one available to download in the description. This autoexec file, I've kind of stripped down a bit from last time I made a video. I could probably strip it down more, but I'm pretty happy with where it's at. I haven't really made too many changes, so obviously if you download mine exactly, you're gonna want to change your sensitivity. I use 0.9 at 1600 dpi. Here we have some keybinds for our movement, and this just enables null movement canceling. That way you don't have sticky keys. If you hold left and you press right, you will instantly go right and you won't have to cancel your movement. Here are my view model binds, and you'll see I actually don't have anything here. I have a pretty simple slot 1 and slot 2 for my 1 and 2 keys, as well as just a plus reload bind for R. However, you will see that I have an extra Uzi.cfg and shotgun.cfg, and I press O and P to toggle those. So let's go ahead and see what those are about. In Uzi.cfg here, we will see that I bind 1 to slot 1 and view model 180. So I'm swapping to my gun and simultaneously turning off the gun model. I just kind of don't like seeing the gun when I play Uzi, and sometimes I also use it on shotgun. What we have here is essentially when I press reload, I like to flash my view model a little bit just so I get a little bit of haptic feedback, especially if I'm playing shotgun. I don't know, I just kind of like it. I like how it feels. You've probably seen it in my videos, so I have all of that here in Uzi.cfg. If we swap over to shotgun.cfg, we have just a generic bind 1 to slot 1, bind 2 to slot 2, and rebind R to plus reload. And then we start off with a simple CL viewmodel FOV survivor 90. Okay, so this line right here, I actually do use in game. I just realized I had not added that to my autoexec file, so I went ahead and added it. What this does is if I am on shotgun, which is just the generic, it's just a generic file for having a view model throughout. This just lets me kind of hot swap between different values if I want to switch it up, but I don't want to stop and type in console. We can just cycle through them like this, and you can change this to whatever you want. So like if you want to add like a 180 in there, you can. They don't have to be in increasing order, it's just kind of how I do it. So when I press it, it goes farther out the more I press. I have a bunch of utility binds here. So for example, I press L to toggle ready. I actually don't use F4 as my current tank and health bind. I use 7, but it's kind of the same. You can set it to what you want, and that happens when you press this button in zone mod is it's like your printout button when you want to see a bunch of information, whether you want to check your health, check the tank percentage, check the distance you are throughout the map. We have a simple pause bind here. Here we have S&D restart, which is pretty useful if you're playing with friends on Discord, because it will, you know, if there's a loud horn blaring for an event, you can press this key and it'll stop it potentially. But it has the caveat that if you're using in-game voice, you won't be able to hear your teammates talk or talk yourself until a map is loaded again. So I only really use this if I'm playing with friends in Discord and I don't need to hear people talking in game. Here are the plus left and plus right binds for ceiling pouncing. If you don't know what ceiling pouncing is, you can essentially glide across the ceiling as Hunter, and you use these to steer because your mouse has to stay at the same position. For crosshair settings, this is what I use when I do use a crosshair. We'll kind of go over the mumble overlay crosshairs a little bit, but generally I start with the crosshair on in game. So if you are using an overlay crosshair and you want to turn off the game one, you would change this right here to a 0. And I also write that here as a comment in case someone forgets. But I really like thickness 2. I don't like thickness 1 or 4. I think 1 is too thin. I think 4 is a little too thick. 2 is kind of a sweet spot for me. And I keep colorblind on 0 so that we actually do have a color, which the color I do like to use, as you probably know, is like a cyan. Here's the glows portion. Honestly, I don't mess with these too much. I've been using the same glows since probably like 2016, so this is just what I use if you want to copy it. Otherwise, I'm sure there's plenty of other resources out there to copy from. This section can be pretty important. This is just where you set your brightness via autoexec instead of setting it via the slider in game. And then, yeah, we have matte monitor gamma TV enabled 1. If you have an IPS monitor or you just want more brightness. I currently have an OLED monitor, and so my game is already pretty vibrant and colorful. If I turn this on, it kind of just looks a bit washed out. Here's the rate section of the autoexec. It's set up for 128 tick or 100 tick. I wouldn't go into pubs with interp 0. I would change your interp to 0.67, but 0 is fine for me. These are my net graph settings. If you like how my net graph looks on my game, kind of where it's positioned and the size of it, you can copy it here. I use FPS max 355 because I'm on a 360 Hz monitor. If you're on 240 Hz, I would recommend capping at 237, or you could leave it uncapped as well, but this is just what feels right for me on my current setup, so you can experiment as much as you want. And then down here we have a little section that if you're using a custom font, it's essential to have this so that your custom font works, and we're going to get into my custom font right after this. So for the custom font, the file you will want to download is angimori_handle.vpk, and you will simply place that in your L4D2 add-ons folder, and I have mine right here. It's also important to have the font installed on Windows itself. So you'll see if I type in handle to my Windows fonts, I have it installed. To find it, you just Google handle fonts, and it's on Google Fonts right here. And you can download the TTF file and just run the TTF file and it'll install it to Windows. Pretty simple. On the L4D2 Ultimate Config GitHub page, there are a lot of fonts here with VPK files that you can download to experiment with. Just make sure if you install some of these that you install the actual font to Windows itself, and it seems JDot has a lot of sources here for you to install the various fonts. If you've seen how my infected looks on my videos, you'll notice that instead of the very bright blue tint, when you're in ghost form, it's more of a soft blue tint. And this is what we have here. It is ghost.raw and ghost.pwl.raw. You will simply install these and go to your L4D2 folder, go to materials, correction, and drag them in and click replace, because there are the existing ghost files. See, here are the ones I have that are currently working. And then for the orange tint, when you're spawned in, I just delete those. You can just delete them, and then there is no color correction when you're spawned in with infected, because I found the orange one distracting and I didn't really want the lighter orange tint. If you do want that lighter orange tint, it's also accessible here on the JDot GitHub page under materials correction. He has it right here. It even mentions softer infected vision. So if you want that light orange, it is the infected.pwl.raw and infected.raw. And you just simply drag them into this folder as well. Okay, so on the note of mumble overlay crosshairs and HUD site and all of that, you are free to use HUD site, you're free to use crosshair X. I just don't use them because they feel bad for me and they feel like they give me input lag. So I want to say I do still use mumble 1.2.8. I've followed my own YouTube guide and it has worked for me before, like within recent years, not just 5 years ago. So I would say just go ahead. I'll probably link this as well in the description if you want to use the mumble overlay crosshair. Like this person says, just make sure you're not using any other version of mumble. It has to be this specific 1.2.8. all right, I think that about wraps it up. So thanks everyone for watching. Let me know if there's any comments, concerns down there below, and have a good one.